Today we're going to be working on solving systems using a method called elimination. Okay. Now, when we talked about solving using substitution, the big idea was we needed to find a key. We always highlighted the key in orange, or we had to create a key in which we could be told what one of the variables was and then substitute it back in. That is not what we're going to do when we use elimination. So as you can see up here, we're going to use the elimination method. Elimination is going to be related to, I'm going to write this down at the top, opposites. Okay. By opposites, we mean like positive 2 and negative 2, or in this case, positive 2x and negative 2x. Okay. This is a different strategy for solving systems. So if I look at the first one, okay, my goal is to do a couple things. Number one, I'm going to draw on the wall through my equal signs. Also notice how they line up. X's on top of X's, Y's on top of Y's, and numbers with numbers. That's key when we're trying to solve a system. Now, as you can see in the first example, I have a negative 3x and I have a positive 3x. This is an example of opposites. So again, negative 3x and positive 3x. These are opposites. That's what I'm looking for. That's what tells me this is the best method of solving aside from the directions. My goal then is to add vertically. So notice negative 3 plus 3, if I use my calculator, negative 3 plus 3 gives me 0 x's. So these end up canceling, which all opposites when they are added together do cancel. Then I have 3 minus 5, which is negative 2y on the left, is equal to positive 12, negative 3 plus 15. Then I solve my equation. Divide both sides by negative 2. Y is equal to negative 6. Remember, in my final answers, this is my x, this is my y. I can plug in negative 6. How I solve for x is exactly like substitution. I'm going to have to take it, this y value, and plug it back in up top. So I'm going to do that in this second equation. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put in 3x, I don't know what x is, minus 5, my y value is negative 6, equals 15. Take a look, exactly the same thing, but I've replaced the y with the negative 6. So if you want to think about that, it's kind of like I'm taking this y and I'm replacing it with this because I've redefined what y is. So yes, we are using elimination in the initial steps. However, we do resort back to a form of substitution to find the other variable. 3x plus 30 equals 15 minus 30 from both sides. 3x is negative 15. Divide by 3. X is equal to negative 5. If I had plugged negative 6 into the top equation and solved correctly, I still would have gotten negative 5. All right, let's move down to number 3. I'm going to zoom in to make it a little easier if you're using split screen on your computer or your iPad. So starting with the first, I can clearly identify now. Here's my wall through my equal signs. Everything is lined up. I have opposites here and here, negative 2y and positive 2y. So when I add them, it gives me 0y. This is a negative 1, so negative 1 plus 6 gives me 5x. And on the right-hand side, 1 minus 6 gives me negative 5. Go back to equation solving. X equals negative 1. Remember, this is x, this is y. Now, I've defined no longer y, now I know what x is. So I'm going to go, I like using my second equation, so I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to rewrite it. 6, wait, I know what x is. It's negative 1 plus 2y is equal to negative 6. Negative 6 plus 2y equals negative 6. Go back to my equation solving. Y is equal to 0. Okay. Now, as we move into the next section, I'm going to change over because if I look at number 5, be careful. Okay, this is a separate type of problem. So I'm going to sort of draw a line across here so we recognize this is a different type. Obviously, 6 and negative 9 are not opposites. Negative 9 and negative 9 are not opposites. But I can turn this into opposites by taking the top all times negative 1. So I'm going to distribute this negative 1, 1, 2, 3 times. If you recall, when you multiply by negative 1, it flips your signs. So this gives me negative 6x, this gives me plus 9y, and this gives me negative 9. So when I multiplied 1, 2, 3 times, this is what I get. And now I'm going to work with these two problems right here. I changed the form of the top one. I'm going to add vertically. So this is negative 15x. Notice now I have opposites. Negative 9y plus 9y. Opposites is equal to 0. Divide both sides by negative 15. X is equal to 0. To solve for y, I'm going to plug back in. I have 3 choices now. My answer should be the same no matter what I picked. I'm going to stick with the second one, just to be consistent. Negative 9 times 0 minus 9y is equal to 9. This cancels. Negative 9y equals 9. Divide both sides by negative 9. Y is equal to negative 1. Done. Following in the same type of problem, if I draw on my wall, these are not opposites. These are the same. So I'm going to take my top line and I'm going to multiply by negative 1. 1, 2, 3 different numbers. That gives me negative 8x plus 3y is equal to positive 20. These are my 2 new equations I'm going to work with. I don't need to work with the top one anymore because I changed the form to create the new one. Now notice I have opposites, 8x and negative 8x, which then I can add vertically. 4y is equal to 16. Divide both sides by 4, and I get y is equal to 4. So my y value is 4. To solve for x, I'm going to come right over here again. I'm going to plug in 8x plus, we said y was 4, is equal to negative 4. Minus 4, 8x equals negative 8. Divide by 8, x equals negative 1. So the 2 top problems that were in green and pink were very simple. We got a little harder when we moved to the purple because we had to create opposites. And now let's take a look at the last 2 problems in the lesson. Notice if I draw on my wall, I have everything lined up. But I don't have even something I could multiply by negative 1 in order to get opposites. So I'm going to have to multiply by something else. Now, I want you to take a look. I'm going to circle these. Negative 4y, and this is a negative 1y. Okay? These are the 2 hardest problems in here. I'm going to go as slowly as I can so that you can see how this works. Negative 4 and negative 1 are the same sign. So I know I'm going to have to change the signs. So overall, I'm going to take this bottom and I'm going to multiply by negative 1. So I'll put a negative there. That's going to turn -1 times -1 is positive, so I can get opposites. But if I multiply by -4, okay, so I'm going to take -4 times this, -4 times this, -4 times this. I end up getting the following. Positive 12x, positive 4y equals -4. So this line became this line of work by multiplying by -4. If I bring down -9x minus 4y equals 10, these are the two equations I want to work with. Notice now I have opposites. +4 and -4. When I add vertically, they go to 0. When I add here, I get 3x is equal to 6. Divide both sides by 3. X is equal to 2. So down here at the bottom, I can say that x is equal to 2. Now I have a choice. I can pick any line that I want to. I can pick the first line. I can pick the second line. I can pick the third line. I can pick any of these 4 equations. I'm going to start with the top one this time. -9 times 2, which is the value of x, minus 4y equals 10. -18 minus 4y equals 10. Add 18. -4y equals 28. Y is equal to -7. Since this is a harder problem, my advice to you would be to pause the video and come right over here and model what you did in this example. So I will give you a hint in telling you that once again, I'm going to have to do something with these, but I'm going to have to turn them into a positive 3y and a negative 3y. I have the negative, somehow you're going to have to multiply here in order to get a positive. That's how you can model off of the previous problem. And now let's look at our last example, number 11. Okay, number 11, when I look at these, I'm going to use x this time. 8x and -x. They could be opposites if the bottom one said -8x. So I'm going to multiply this whole row by an 8. Why not -8? Well, because I already have a negative. When I multiply these, it's going to create the opposites that I want. 3 multiplications, 8 times -1x, 8 times -1y, 8 times -2. Rewrite exactly the first line, add vertically. Notice, here now are my opposites. When I add vertically, -8 plus 2 is -6y. That's equal to 6. Divide by -6, y is equal to -1. So down here, notice I substituted in for y with the -1. Then I can go and I can take any of these lines. I'll take the first one, 8x plus 2 times -1, because notice y is -1, is equal to 22. 8x minus 2 equals 22. Add 2 to both sides. X is equal to 3. And I'm done.